Hey everyone, welcome to Well World Live TV, Facebook TV. We're happy that you're here. Thanks for tuning in. We have a great show tonight with my neighbor. His name is Patrick Briggs. And contrary to what you may think that New Yorkers don't talk to their neighbors, actually, we do talk. So that's pretty good. What I want to tell you is that Patrick is a thought-provoking and motivational speaker. He encourages educators to examine their mindsets and practices as they consider if all means all when educating students. His high energy presentations move listeners to positive action, both in and out of the classroom. He's the co-author of the Culturally Relevant Teaching Pathways book that actually serves as a foundation for educators. He has dedicated the last 30 years of his life to educating all of his students so that they are college and career ready and able to be successful in any path of their choosing. He believes that any perceived achievement gaps are the result of opportunity and expectation gaps that adults must work together to close. Later on, I'll let you know how to reach Patrick. And without further ado, my neighbor, my friend, Patrick Briggs. Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Lillian, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's just like, there's a wall separating us. We live on the same floor, everybody. So she's in 1R F and I'm in 1R.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I had a friend come visit me a couple years back from California, and he stayed with me, and he was saying hello to all the neighbors, and he was saying hello to the dry cleaners. He wanted to know their names, and I said, stop talking to everybody. Nobody cares. And he's like, no, I'm going to talk to everybody. And so really, we do talk to each other every now and then, right?
Of course we do. Yes. That's a myth that New Yorkers are rude or they're not friendly. That's just not true. Now, you probably hear a slight accent.
Yeah.
I spent the first 50 years of my life in the state of Texas, but I got to New York as soon as I could. So I've been loving living in New York City. But this accent that you're hearing, it is born and raised in Texas, in the Houston area.
Yeah. So I see everybody. I have a nice Southern gentleman living next to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, there he goes. During the pandemic, he was asking me, do you need any toilet paper? Do you need anything? So this is a very good neighbor.
Oh.
Anyway, and we do share affinity for Diet Coke, but I really don't want to talk about that too much because it's not good for you. Anyway, Patrick, I definitely want to talk to you about a few things. I know during this time especially, there's been a lot of racial unrest.
Mm-hmm.
There's COVID and so on, and this has brought inequalities in our system to a brighter light for everyone to see.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of everything?
Yeah, well, the first thing I want to say is, I've been Black and male for over 50 years. So none of this is new for me. The thing is, because everybody is carrying a camera around, more people are starting to see it. So what happened to George Floyd, what happened to Breonna Taylor, these are stories I grew up with. These are people I knew when Patrick was 12, when Patrick was 15. We've always been saying, look, this is what happens. And people would say, it's not that bad. And then you get the 9 minutes of George Floyd with a knee in his neck. 3 of those minutes, he was dead. And then America saw that and said, oh, well, wait a minute. That stuff Patrick and others have been saying all these years, maybe there's something to that. So this has always been happening. Go back to the founding of our country. Our country was founded on the premise that certain people were superior, certain people were inferior. And remember, at one point, if this was, 150 years ago, I'd be considered property.
Right.
I would not have been able to vote or sue for my freedom because I wasn't a person. So none of this is new. I'm glad America is seeing it. But, remember how we were when it first happened with George Floyd?
Yeah.
Everybody was out in the streets. We were protesting. This is outrageous. And now it's kind of, okay. Yeah. And then, of course, it just happened again, or we had another incident in I think it was Wisconsin. Yeah, it was Wisconsin. And I don't see the same marching in the street. So my fear is it's become the new normal. Who is the next George Floyd? Who is the next Breonna Taylor? Who is the next Trayvon Martin? Because it's going to happen, and it's about systems being racist, not individual people, because people are going to be people. If the system was not racist, then we wouldn't see this. But it's systemic racism that is driving everything that we're starting to see in the news. That has always been happening, but we have the benefit of people filming it now.
Yeah. Well, how do you even begin to even unravel that? Like how do you, we know, okay, so we know we're acknowledged, it's being acknowledged. So what do you do? I mean, it keeps happening. It happened again with the guy in Washington.
Well, vote is the first thing. I marched in several protests here in the city because it's just really easy to do. This is a walkable city, so I'd hear helicopters, and wow, a block down there was a protest going. That's why I might as well get in it. Let's march. And then about a mile into it, I said, well, this is a waste of time. My opinion. I kept marching because I just needed to do something, and so we do that because I need to feel valuable. I need to be woke. I need to be anti-racist, because there's a difference between being not racist and anti-racist. They're two different things. But as I was marching, I said, what difference is this going to make? We could march every day. Power concedes nothing without a struggle. That's Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was clear. If you want something to change, you have to change who and what and why is in power. Power will concede nothing without a struggle. So the best way is vote. I was marching with probably 5,000 people right after George Floyd. And I kept each step I was saying, if all these people would vote, if all these people would vote. Because power will concede nothing without a struggle. So you have to change who and what is in power. Because without that, the systems won't change. It's systemic racism. It's built into the system. When we look at policing, for example, why were police invented in the first place? And I love police. I support police. But why was policing invented in the first place? The first police were to capture runaway slaves. That's how. So that was the system that was put in place to kind of police the activity of property and this happened to be property that could get up and walk. So when we look at, if that's the founding, what has changed? What systems have we disrupted? So when I look at my field, 30 years of my life dedicated to education, it's like, we must disrupt the system, because the system is not going to change. We in America, we hear about the achievement gap all of the time. Oh, there's poor kids underperform, poor kids or kids of color underperform, kids who are white or Asian. That's a result. That's a result. An achievement gap is a result. Oh, look, I got my test scores back. And look, the white kids as a group performed here. The black kids as a group performed here. That's a result. How did you get there? Because the systems you use are perfect for the results you're getting. Let me say that again. The systems you use are perfect for the results you're getting. So as I work with schools and I see, oh, you have an achievement gap, that's a result. What systems do you have in place to create it?
Right.
So you have to disrupt the system. Just a quick example of that would be.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, like in my school back in Houston, we had an achievement gap, like most schools do. And once we realized that's a result, how did we get there? And we realized we as adults were driving it. We had opportunity gaps we were working. Who had the opportunity? Visit any school in America and ask to see their most rigorous classes. Say, can I visit your AP, Advanced Placement Calculus class? Ooh, can I visit your IB, Interbaccalaureate Physics class? Can I visit your Honors Algebra 1 for 12-year-olds, Honors Algebra 1 for high school credit in middle school? You, more than likely, when you visit that class is not going to be made up of the demographics of the school. It's going to be made up of more affluent kids and typically fewer kids of color. Does that mean I, as a black poor kid, which I was, As a black poor kid, I couldn't do Algebra 1 as a middle schooler. I couldn't take AP Physics. I couldn't take IB Calculus. No, it meant the systems in place were not designed to give me the opportunity. How did you get into Algebra 1 honors? How did you get into AP Calculus? Well, you had to make this score. You had to have 3 teacher recommendations. You had to have your parents advocate. You had to have a teacher recommend you and write an essay. Well, all of those hoops I had to jump through, that opportunity wasn't for me. So now we can't be shocked. When you look at AP Calculus, it is really made up of kids who have the opportunity for algebra in middle school, which means that's really made up of kids who have the opportunity for honors math in 6th grade. So the opportunities are set up to the inequities in the system. Go ahead, Lillian.
So let's say, you're a young black kid and you're really smart and you excelling in math. They can't get into an honors math.
Sure, comma, but I speak in punctuation. Part of being a teacher for so long, I just throw in that. Now we get to the expectation gap. Because sure, little Patrick qualified. Patrick could do it. And I had great teachers, which is the vast majority of American educators are dedicated professionals. You hear on the news, no, talk to the teachers. Remember, power concedes nothing without a struggle. Those of us who do the work,
right,
we're not in the power. So now that gets to the expectation gap. I'm a poor kid from the George Washington NYCHA complex, New York Housing Authority. Do the teachers in the school really expect me to be taking 5 AP classes? Or so are they going to recommend? Oh, it may be a little different. Yeah, he's smart, but he's single parent. His parents are on welfare. Let's not set him up for failure. No, set me up, but give me support, because rigor with support is a formula for success. So it drives the expectation gap is driving it. And then you see in cities, and right here in our city, well, the best schools, you really can't get into them. There's a system designed to keep certain kids out. I mean, we have schools here in New York City, mostly kids of color, that are mostly white. There's no statistical probability that just happened. It was intentionally done. The system was set up to where, if you don't live in this zip code, well, you can't go to this particular school. Or if you're not in this district, you can't go to this particular school. Yeah, in New York, we can open, you can go to any school except these 8, except this one over here in this rich neighborhood. So you black smart kid, don't even think about it. The system, that's a system that's set up. And guess what? As people argue and say, hey, can I get my kid into this rigorous school? Well, you don't live in the right zip code. Well, you don't qualify. Oh, well, you don't have, test scores. That's the number one. You didn't make this test score. Well, the test is racist, period. Now, I know people are going to argue with me, but the test is racist. The test is racially biased. Who created the test? Who made the test? What norms is the test set for? I don't write tests. I wish somebody would ask me to write a test. I would put some questions on there that little Patrick could have answered. It's set up when you talk about, it's a norm reference test. Normed on who? Normed on whom? Sorry, English teachers. Normed on whom? It wasn't normed on the kids from the NYCHA complex who are the brightest kids in the world who survive daily. So, I wish he had grit. I hate grit and growth mindset. Please, I have all the grit and growth mindset in the world. If you don't give me the opportunities, who cares how I can pull myself up? Without an opportunity, I don't even have access.
Right. Do you find that? How about the private schools? What about the private schools here in New York, for example? Do you think? Because I know that the private schools, I have a good friend whose daughter goes to a private school, and she said to me, everybody has money in this school. She said, there's no rhyme or reason. Now they want diversity, at least here in New York. They want the gay parents. They want diversity.
Diversity is a code word. It's racism with a smile, is what it is.
Oh, really?
Oh, what do you want diversity? What do you mean? Oh, we want through. So you can say we got 3 black kids. That's exactly what you want. It's not about I want to give access and opportunity, because if you really want diversity, oh, is there a limit?
Right.
Got too many black kids. So yeah, we say we want diversity, we say we want it, but come on, let's keep it real. There, especially us in liberal New York City. Yeah, we all say that, but then when I ask, well, can my kid go to that school? Like, whoa, we want diversity, but come on now, I can't have all y'all nice kids in my school. You might drive down our test scores. We may not be as prestigious as we once were. So systems are designed to keep kids out. Oh, yes, you can go to that prestigious school, but here's the test score you need. Here are the recommendations you need. So I need not apply.
So what do you think? God, that's a huge problem. And do you think it's more of a problem in certain places, or is it like throughout the country, even like?
Well, I have the privilege of traveling to schools around the country. So it is not an issue that's regionally based. It's not the South. It's not the North. It's not rich or it's poor. It is systemic. So everywhere I go, I see an achievement gap, which is really an opportunity. That's a result. That's really an opportunity and expectation gap. So no, it's because it's a systemic issue. And if we were to do abolitionist teaching and anti-racist teaching, we would dismantle the system. I can't fix this by giving 10 black kids access to this good school. That's not going to change the system for anybody else. So the way to fix this is to have the courage. Maya Angelou, oh gosh, I love her quotation where courage is the most important value, because without courage, you will do nothing consistently. Courage will allow you, if you don't have courage, you'll let something slide when you don't feel comfortable addressing it. Now we have to call a thing a thing. We have to be okay calling it racism. That's what it is. Sometimes we'll dance and skirt around it. So until we have the courage to call a thing, call it what it is, and then say, okay, then the only way to fix this is to dismantle and disrupt the system that's in place that's creating this. I can't change the achievement gap without changing the racist system that is set up. Look at why schools were invented. Schools weren't invented to educate me. Schools, look at segregation. I mean, we had to fight for, why did we have to fight? We look at 100 years ago, we just gave women the right to vote. Do you realize what women had to do and male allies had to do to get women the right to vote? Now we look back and say that's silly. Women can vote. And look at what people were saying about women 100 years ago. Well, they don't have the fortitude. They don't have the intelligence to make an informed decision. Right. I mean, these are the things, same thing they said about black people. Well, they're savages and they don't have the intelligence. So again, the system was set up for that. And of course, I can give you an excuse. So the only way to solve it is to dismantle the system, change the system. Because there's no such thing as bad apples. You hear that a lot when people talk about defunding the police, which I'm not for, by the way. But they say, oh, well, that police officer was a bad apple. Maybe, but the system allows that bad apple to stay in the barrel.
Right. Of course. So, I mean, it's obviously a huge task with the work that you do. Are you, especially with the book that you co-authored, does that address these things too?
Yes, and it doesn't have to be, I'm not plugging anything. So I encourage anyone to start with your self-examination. So start with educating yourself, because Black people are sick and tired. That's Fannie Lou Hamer. Sick and tired of having to educate others. It's not my job to educate you. I love doing it because I want to help change the system. But educate yourself. Any book on anti-racism or abolitionist teaching or culturally relevant teaching, if you're an educator, any of those books, white fragility, that's not going to change the system, but at least it'll start the conversation. That's what I need. I need people to start the conversation with me and with others. Let's talk about this. What can I do? Posting to Facebook, Black Lives Matter, that's performative allyship. That doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
When you do talk, when you are talking to these educators, what is the response that you're finding from them? And let's say they do want to make some change and make some changes. What about the people that are above them? I mean, they may want to make the changes, but what about the people above them? And would their hands be tied then if the people above don't want to make the changes?
No. I always tell people, no, I don't ever want to believe that. I always tell people, start where you are. Start where you are. Be the change, okay, now I'm gone. Be the change you want to see. Be the change you want to see. It starts with you.
Right.
What happens is you will find, believe it or not, there are people who feel the same way. There are like-minded people who just maybe don't have the courage. Because for me, I can remember when I was in my school 30 years ago, I kind of mentioned, hey, do you all realize that in my honors class, I don't have any black kids? And are you all aware that in my special ed class, it's all black boys? Are you?
Interesting.
Well, people didn't want to have that conversation. People shut me down. But I had the courage to say it. Now, when I mentioned to somebody who felt like I did, I said, you know what? I mentioned this. And they're like, ooh, you're going to get in trouble. And I'm like, well, I need you to speak up to, no, I don't want to get in trouble. So without courage, you will do nothing consistently. So no, start where you are. Be the change you want to see. Question authority. I don't want anybody to lose their job. So, do it within the system, but have the conversations. And the time is ripe for that. People are at this point willing to engage in the conversations, have the difficult conversations. It's okay to be uncomfortable. Let's start there. We're not going to have any closure, and it's going to be a difficult conversation, but let's keep the conversation going, because that's how we reach a critical mass. I would never have reached a critical mass in my school if I had shut down at that point.
Yeah.
But as I talked to others, that became 4, then it became 6. And then it was like, okay, now I really have courage. I got 6 people with me. And people will listen, because at one point it was just, oh, that's Patrick. He's always whining about racism and black. Well, yeah, that's what I become if I'm the only one. I need people to be allies in deed, not just in word.
Who did you speak up to? The people in authority?
There you go. Oh, yeah. Because me as a classroom teacher, I didn't have any power, authority, or decision-making role to make that change. Mm-hmm. So that's why Patrick went back to school. Why am I talking about myself in the third person? That's why that's why I went back to school, because the only way to become in power is to have a piece of paper. I wasn't smarter or better than anybody, but a master's degree gave me the opportunity. See, 90% of the teachers that I know would make great principals. Without a master's degree, it will not happen. That's a hoop you have to jump through to get it, so that we can deny you access and opportunity without a piece of paper. Oh, I got to go back and pay, thousands of dollars to take some courses. I'm not going to be any smarter, but I'll have the piece of paper. So that's what I did. I said, you know what? I'm going back to school. I'll get a master's degree. You can get that online in a year now. Go back and get your master's degree, because then you will become a counselor, an assistant principal, a principal. You'll be qualified to be working at the district level. Then now, guess what? Now you are in a decision-making role. But we have to set ourselves up for that. So you can see how I had to work inside the system. Oh, okay. Let me give me a master's.
Yes. Tell me, Patrick, with the book that you co-authored, how that happened and how it's been helping the teachers.
Yes. And I'm only speaking for myself here, but I work for an organization, and that particular book is part of our library. And the way it helped is several ways. One, it started the conversation. We started the conversation with teachers who were like-minded, who said, we need to engage in this work. What can we do? So we started slowly. And again, change takes time. We started 100 years, for women to vote. They've been asking for that. 400 years as a slave. We've been asking, can I be free? So change takes time. So the great way to do it is to start with a small coalition, find out what we can do. Work, because don't say, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. What can you do? Turns out there's a lot you can do. Let's start with a small group. Let's start educating ourselves. What is out there? What resources are out there? So we started with small little conferences to bring together like-minded people who said, okay, that was a great conference. And what's next? I'm going to go back to my classroom and read my notes. Can we have maybe some training? Can we have a book on that? And again, I'm not plugging any product here. I'm just saying there are many products out there that you can start with, but start with your small coalition so that you can start to build. As soon as 51% of the teachers feel this way, guess what? That's most of them.
Yeah.
Now let's talk. Now let's talk to power and say, look, we work here, and most of us feel there are some issues with inequities in our system, and we want to and demand that we do something about it.
Right.
But even starting small, one of the things I did was I looked at my honors class when I didn't have any Black kids, and I physically went out and found, because they existed in my school, I went out and talked to some of my Black kids, and I said, if you take my honors course, I will make sure to support you. I will not let you fail. I'm gonna have high expectations of you. You're gonna do all the work, but I am going to put extra effort, do what we call equity work. I'm going to do the equity work to get you to make sure you're successful. If I have to do one-on-one tutoring, if I have to reteach it, whatever I have to do. And guess what? I got 2 or 3. Then I could go to the counselor. Look, can I please have these 2 Black kids in my honors class? And they're like, yeah, why not? You said you'd support them. So those 2 Black kids were extremely successful. And guess what? Next year they took 3 honors classes, and other teachers started saying, wait a minute, how did you get into honors class? You live in that apartment complex and your mama on welfare. How did you get in this honors class? I'm honors material, and I took honors science with Mr. Briggs, and he gave me skills on note taking and other things that I lacked. I was brilliant. I just didn't have certain skills. I wasn't highly organized, and he got me to that point, and now I can take 50 honors classes if I want. And then other people were like, well, wait a minute. Oh, turns out this can be done. See, closing the opportunity gap. Notice I gave those kids the opportunity.
Yeah, I see.
Closing the expectation gap, because I expected them to do it.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, Patrick, this has been really eye-opening, and we can certainly talk forever. But I'll also tell you this: you are so animated that you know what? In your next lifetime, or when you're done with this, you could be on stage when Broadway opens up.
Oh, it's funny you should say that. What you're saying now is my theater background. I stayed in a show when I was in Houston. Oh, yeah, I did all kind of theater in Houston. But, of course, here in New York, they kind of want you to be a professional with an equity card, and I love my day job. So
I had no idea. You see, everybody, he lives right next door. Yeah. I had no idea. And I'm saying, boy, this guy is he's so animated. If it doesn't work now, you can be in Broadway.
Yeah. So if there's a casting director or a Broadway producer out there, hit me up. I am pretty good. You should have seen my King and I.
And on that note, I'm going to let everybody know how to reach you on Twitter. That's pbriggs728. That's how you can reach Patrick. Patrick, I want to say that I mean, I always thought you were awesome, but I'm really, really, really impressed with you and everything you said, and how you went all the extra miles to take care of these kids, to ensure that they got where they could go, and didn't know they could.
Mm-hmm. And I did that solely because great teachers, which is 99.9% of us, did it for me. They didn't have to.
So I was going to say, there. Don't you think there has to be a little luck here? Like, you have to be a little lucky to get a really good teacher, don't you think? Like, not that it's a really good teacher, but a teacher that actually really takes an interest in you, and not, I'm teaching and then I'm going home, but really a teacher that goes that really extra mile for everybody.
I wouldn't say it's luck. I would say that 99.9% of us are actually that good, but the system will not allow us to do the equity work that needs to be done. When I have to grade papers and fill out forms and attend this meeting, and I'm trying to teach, and somebody comes in and interrupts me with a pass, and I can't even teach my 45-minute class because I'm interrupted twice. Leave me alone as a teacher. I'm good. I was trained. I'm certified, highly qualified to teach children. I want to build relationships. I want to go the extra mile. But when I look at all of the demands, all those extra demands we have on teachers that have nothing to do with teaching, I'm at the point, as a great teacher, I was at the point at one point where I had the Sweet Brown complex. I was saying, ain't nobody got time for that. But I had to choose to say, look, Patrick, great teachers did it for you. You're going to do it for these kids. Yeah, you're going to have to stay up and do your paperwork. So, yeah, luck is a part of it. But, if people would leave us alone and quit testing me, I had to teach to a test that was given one time a year because they were going to rate me based on one test that kids took for one day. Well, when am I going to have time to build relationships? Leave me alone. Because COVID taught us one thing. We thought people say, oh, you can't get rid of state testing. Turns out you can. It took a pandemic to show us, no, you don't need state testing. And teachers were able. If you look at what teachers did during COVID, they built relationships. They checked on kids. They were doing trauma informed. They were doing social emotional learning because they didn't have to cover the regents. They didn't have to make sure kids could pass the test in April and May. Do that for me, and I'll work miracles with kids.
Listen, I think you could get a job in government. Let me tell you right now. Anyway, I have a question. My last question is, do you think that this is going to change ever? And if so, when?
That's a powerful question. Hope, what I believe is yes. I believe I won't live to see it. I believe that it's not going to happen in our lifetimes because change, it's that slow, because it will take dismantling the system, and people who benefit from the system don't want it changed. Think about it. If my kid is in that great school and he has a spot in that school, why would I want that system to change to maybe take a spot away from my kid? I like the system of relying on a test score and 3 teacher recommendations and jumping through this hoop and living in this zip code. I like that system. Why would I work? I'm benefiting from that system. That's what we call privilege. People are afraid of the word privilege. No, privilege doesn't want to give away privilege.
Right. So, interesting. Yeah.
So the system, people, we have a lot of liberals up here in New York, but they understand their privilege. And why would I give that up? Yes, I want to say I want diversity. I want all kids to have access. But that means my kid might not have a spot at that great school. Yeah. Okay, let's get 3 black kids in here because we're diverse. Yeah. We're woke. We got 3 black kids. Privilege concedes nothing without a power. Why would I give up the privilege? Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I have to tell you, this conversation has enlightened me. I didn't realize all this. And you work so hard. And I'm really proud of you for everything that you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it's great work. It's fun work. If you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And for the last 30 years, I haven't worked. I've been doing the business of educating America's children. I haven't worked a day. I love it.
That's fantastic. Well, of course, because you're doing so great at it. Patrick, thank you so much. I'm so happy that you were here. And I hope our viewers, learned a lot out of this. And thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you.
Anytime. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right.